I just woke up on this beautifully remastered medieval island, which consists of the iconic chalk hills, the coldest tundras, and an expansive aberrant zone. I have been sent here to defeat the Night Terror Grendel, who is one of the hardest bosses in the game right now. It's not going to be easy, but maybe with the help of the newly added Mega Raptor or Elder Claw, I may be able to stand a chance. This video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends, more on them later. We've got to get right into it, so without any further ado, let's get right into the video. Day 1 on Valg started just like any other playthrough, but this time with the most creative name I think I've ever had. I decided to spawn in the Boreal Forest 1 region because it looked like the easiest. Oh my god. Take a look at those clouds. Oh, take a look at this map. So this is my first time loading in. As someone who's barely played Valg for more than 2 hours, I like. Something that I consistently say on this playthrough is that this map looks absolutely beautiful, and not only that, the frames are amazing. Moving on, I have to go and gather some fibers so that I can get myself some cloth armor. Any amount of protection I can get now is going to be really helpful, and now I'm looking dripped out. With all of that out of the way, we can proceed to run around this beautiful map. I'm sure that there's no unexpected visitors just watching me from every corner. Anyway, I still need some wood and thatch. By beating up that tree, I was able to get myself a stone pickaxe alongside a hatchet and torch. With my new tools now acquired, I want to head over towards the Chalk Hills, because it has an abundance of good creatures that I could tame. If I wanted to head over there and actually be safe, I would have to craft myself some spears, because you never know what's actually going to come at you. With that out of the way, I want to start swimming over to the Chalk Hills. I just hope that I'm not going to get assaulted by any megalodons on the way there. That would be really tragic, right? Oh... You suck. At the shore, I was greeted with a dead aberrant turtle's body. I'm not sure why it has these stripes on it, but whatever. It's still dead, and it got me a lot of spoiled meat and hide. With that hide, I used it to craft myself the rest of the cloth armor, and I got myself a campfire. What I wanted to do now is kill a bunch of Lystrosaurs for their hides so I can get better armor. I was getting chased around by the Sithiornis because I stole one of its pieces of meat, so now it really wants me dead. Stop, it's literally trying to kill me. Stop, it's not even trying to take my stuff anymore. Oh my god. You suck! Might as well just uninstall the game at this point. That was a series of tragic events. Do you remember when that Serato from earlier was watching me? Well, it reminded me of this one time when I was walking back home from the gym. I had to go down this back alley, and then I saw a shadow behind me. As I got closer, I couldn't believe my eyes. It was Ultimate Death Knight from Raid Shadow Legends. That's right, everybody's favorite cadaverous skeleton has returned. And not to be confused with his beta brother. This altruistic pile of bones is known for his ability to have a 100% chance to deflect any incoming damage. He's like a human meat shield, except he has no meat on his body. Pretty much think of him as your anorexic best friend. He's genuinely an insane champion, and you can get him for free by using my link and putting this code into your game. You're quite literally doing nothing but typing in a code and getting a free legendary champion. What's not to love? That's not all you'll get, as you'll also receive the epic ultimate champion Galek, who is incredibly powerful and should be very essential to your early game. And upon reaching level 15, you'll get another epic orc known as Zargala, who is one of the strongest force affinity support epics. But my personal thoughts on the game? It was a lot better than I initially thought. I really enjoyed the combat system and leveling up my champions. I even made my own clan. Here's the name. I look forward to seeing you join. Just one more thing. When you're signing up for your account under my QR code, you have 6 codes that you are eligible for in the first 48 hours of your account being created, such as some of these that you see on screen right here. Personally, I'm going to be going with Ultimate Death Knight, obviously. My wife just called me and told me that she's leaving and taking the child, which gives me more time to play Raid Shadow Legends. So if that sounds like something that you would be interested in, scan my QR, type in one of those codes, and thank you to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video. With my stuff recovered on day 2, it's time to actually get some stuff done, so I started cooking some meat. While the meat was cooking, I decided to go and get some more hide by killing this parasaur. Ooh. What I want to do now is get off of this beach so that I can move further inland, because I really need a good tame. Once I packed up my campfire, I started running up the beach, and then I found this little dodo. You know what? Yeah. Alright, come on, Jerry. Jerry will be my faithful companion as I explore this map. No! He got in the way! Jerry will live on in all of our hearts. After that tragic loss, I decided to finally move up into the Chalk Hills. When I did, I had to climb onto this rock because I heard some raptors that were trying to jump me. Fortunately, it was just one for the moment, but I knew what to do, so I got myself some bolas. I could use these bolas to trap the raptor for a limited amount of time while I can knock it out. To do this, I decided to get myself a slingshot and club to knock them out easier. What are you doing? He just took it. I made sure to kill the low level so that I wouldn't have any trouble with the high one. Oh! Can you even hit me? Oh, yeah, you can't. I was about to say, like, am I glitched? Oh my god. Alright, yeah, let's do something. With my club breaking pretty quickly, that means I still have to give it a solid amount of topor before I can knock it out. After some time, I was able to bola it again and start pummeling it full of slingshot stones. It wasn't even that low. While waiting for it to starve down, I crafted it the saddle just so I can get out of here as soon as I can, not to mention the hide armor that I got to getting as well. Now, I just have to wait for this guy to be completely starved down so that... Oh, there it is. Hello. So with this raptor, I can get across the map a lot easier, but I'm still gonna get some better tames in the next few days that will completely overshadow this. On day 3, I continued to run around with the raptor, looking for anything that I could possibly tame. Not to mention that I still need to get a base location somewhere up here, but I just don't know exactly where. In other news, I killed this allosaur that was fighting a bronto just so I could get a little bit of easy hide. Believe me, my feud with the allosaurs does not end here. For some reason, the Chalk Hills has so many of them that I have to consistently keep defeating them. Moving on, I got to making myself a spyglass with some of the nearby crystal. Sometime later, I was assaulted by this Mega Raptor, but then it did something I didn't expect. What? What? They can do that? There you go, you're gone. I proceeded to find some Deinonychus eggs, and they're like raptors, but if they took a lot of steroids and were better in every single way. That's a Deinonychus right there. My first egg was level 55, but the second one, 145? Something like that has to be incubated immediately, and I really need to get a Deinonychus as early as possible because I just love using them. I won't be able to incubate them if I don't have a base of some sort, so I started gathering a ton of wood in the safest areas that I could. Once I got all of the resources that I needed, I started to place down my little house, and this would be where I incubate all of the Deinonychus eggs. On day 4, we're continuing doing more of the same, but now I do need some standing torches. These torches would be how I incubate all of the eggs, and without them, I am nothing. So when they were all placed down, I started to fill them full of wood, and now we can start incubating the eggs. Oh. Nice. Okay. That was easier than I thought. All we have to do now is wait until both of them are ready. Let's check. One of each. These two would be shockingly important to the progression of my first few days on this map, but again, there will be better tames that come along shortly. I really want to get myself a Mega Raptor as soon as possible, so that is the next tame that I'm going to try and pursue. Then I'm going to see if I can get myself a nice base. As you can see, I haven't even focused on anything like metal tools. But before I worry about that, I'm going to craft the Deinonychus saddle just so it's ready for him. I then proceeded to imprint on both of them so they can get a lot stronger. What I want to do next is tame this Equus right here, because it's the only berry gatherer I see. I know that there's that Procoptodon right next to my base, but at the same time, I don't want to go out of my way to get rare mushrooms.
A few moments later.
With the Equus now tamed, this is my only berry gatherer for the foreseeable future. While scoping out some Procoptodons, I just want to mention that I do have this treasure chart. My Deinonychus were almost fully raised, so all I have to do now is just wait. Hey. I guess they're tamed. With both of these guys now ready, that means I have one of the best travel mounts on Valguero. Also just better. This thing can glide. Whoa, you could not jump that far before. What? Oh my god. I don't remember them doing this on arksurvivalevolved, and if they did, then I guess I just wasn't too experienced in using them, because this is insane. On day 5, I'm continuing to explore the Chalk Hills. Let's go off, you know. Would I even need a flyer at this point? Like, unless Meguanas spawn on this map, or Managarmers? Like, dude, I don't need this. Like, I don't need a Pteranodon, I will need an RG. With the Deinonychus, I was able to go out anywhere I wanted, including this lake that had a beaver dam that was bigger than the largest residence in California. In this moment, I'm just aimlessly running around looking for anything that I can, but I'm also trying to get myself a ghillie suit crafted. I had just killed a lot of Hesperornis for organic polymer, so that means I was able to turn into a Fortnite bush really quickly. With my new ghillie suit, it's gonna give creatures a harder time at spotting me. It's not really gonna do me much of a tactical advantage when I fly in from the heavens with my Deinonychus. I still can't believe this is real. I must be glitched or something. Surely they didn't actually implement this. This makes no sense. Or maybe it does. Either way, my entire day was spent running around on this definitely not a bird Deinonychus. On day 6, I managed to go and find myself a Mega Raptor altar, but I didn't really know what it did until now. What is that? Mega Raptor altar. Oh, and there's the Mega Raptor. 140? Alright, I need some torches for that, bro. But unfortunately, I had to go and do something in real life, so when I logged back in, this happened. Where did the Mega Raptor go? Are we dead ass? Is it just gone? Are we serious? Despite me logging out literally right in front of it, it still decided to completely despawn on me. It looks like I'm not going to be able to get the 140 Mega Raptor, but fortunately for me, there's still going to be plenty of other opportunities in the coming days. In the meantime, I decided to run through the hills to see what I can find here. I found a pretty cool cave that I initially thought was the aberration area, but unfortunately it wasn't, although this would be a really cool base location. I don't know if I'm going to build here though. There wasn't exactly anything crazy in the cave aside from really pretty lighting. I decided to see if I can go over to another side of the chalk hills that might have another Mega Raptor spawn location. I'm doubting we're gonna get really anything. Oh. Okay, there is one. Wait, hold on, we need to back up. Oh, okay, we got a 135. But we have too many Are they fighting it? Oh my days. So my feud with the Allosaurus pretty much begins here, where they killed the 135 Mega Raptor as I was about to start taming it. That was pretty heartbreaking. Well, aside from a chalk golem trying to take my Deinonychus's head, that was pretty much it for day 6. On day 7, I continued the search for a Mega Raptor, but this time closer to a jungle. I was continuously unlucky with getting one, which was starting to drown my morale. Sometime later, I decided to go back into the hills to see if I can get anything up here. Very luckily for me, I was able to find something, and it really shocked me. Okay, Mega Raptor, you get that one. I'm gonna get this one out of the way, you know? With the Mega Raptor distracted at some Ankylosaurs, this meant I had some time to find the altar where I could start taming it. When the altar was ready to be used, I clicked E on it and the raptor started to hunt me. Whenever it gets close to you, you have to hit it with a torch, and every time you hit it, it gets a little bit of extra torpidity. It was good that I did bring so many torches, but the higher level of torch you have, the more torpidity you will do, so unfortunately I didn't have an Ascendant one I could use, but it would still be fine. Although at the time, I didn't realize that taming this Mega Raptor would be a pretty perilous decision. I was getting a pretty good amount of torpidity on it when this happened. What? What do you mean? So yes, for some reason, the Mega Raptor didn't want to be tamed, and I was forced out of the taming process. I lack words for how stupid this was. Several business years later, I managed to make it back to my stuff. Oh, my Deinonychus is dead. For some reason, this dude was on passive. I was able to get my stuff back, which means that we can continue the Mega Raptor taming, and I have to run back to base as soon as it's done. I have absolutely no choice but to tame this thing as fast as I can, so that it can help me on my way back. By the very end of day 7, it was almost knocked out, but I still have to wait a little bit. On day 8, we were continuing to add on to its torpidity, but it wouldn't take me much longer to actually completely knock it out. Oh! There it is! Broke a few of my torches and killed my Deinonychus. I have to keep it safe. I really do. I'm alone. The top priority in this moment was keeping the Mega Raptor alive until it was starved down enough for me to feed it. I got around to getting some wood spike walls that I could place around the Mega Raptor just in case. After I repaired my ghillie suit, I continued waiting around the Mega Raptor. I knew I needed a lot of prime meat if I wanted to tame this thing, so I set out in search of a baby creature. I managed to find one, but it's not something that I'm gonna enjoy doing because it's a baby jerboa. How could somebody do anything to that poor little There's nothing that I really need to do now that we've gotten the prime meat, but I did want to tame the parent because I wanted a new shoulder pet. I noticed some Allosaurs that were rapidly approaching my location, and to be honest, I don't think a jerboa is worth all of that. While my new pet did not make it out alive, I sure did. The Mega Raptor ate 3 out of the 4 pieces of raw prime that it was gonna require to tame, so it still means that I have to wait for a while. Oh yeah, there it is. With the Mega Raptor being tamed, it is officially my strongest asset, but that's only if I can get it back to base and unlock the saddle. For now though, it's one thing actually getting back, and it's going to be really difficult considering that I have to do it on foot. But if we can make it, we're gonna have one of the strongest creatures in our arsenal. The rest of the day was pretty much spent running closer and closer to base. On day 9, this continues, but I was interrupted by some very mean Allosaurs, but fortunately my Mega Raptor is so good and was able to take them all out. Of course I had to help it out as well, but I was overshadowed very quickly by the amount of damage he was doing. Come on. You're such an animal. Despite shelling out so much damage, he was still really hurt from that, so I had to heal him. This is also when I realized that I still have stone tools. Usually I have metal tools by the end of day 2 or 3, so this is kind of insane. Aside from being extremely miserable at some parkour, I didn't have many issues on the mountaintops of Valguero. I had an idea that I should glide back to base with a parachute, because then my Megaraptor can follow me on the ground and I don't have to risk being down there and almost dying multiple times. This saved me a lot of time, but the rest of the day was still spent running, which is really unfortunate. Although when we were approaching our base, my Megaraptor managed to take down an entire Rex, which is kind of impressive. But now that we were so close to base, I noticed these 2 level 140 allos, and the parent was close to my base. There's 2 140 allos? Megaraptor's just gone. He's going after it. Check that brother out. The Megaraptor proceeded to take down the parent in a very brutal fight, and that means that I have 2 good level allos. With me somewhat surviving the journey back to my house, all I have to do now is wait until the allos are fully grown and I'm the right level to craft the Megaraptor's saddle. On day 10, I decided to expand the base a little bit so that I can house a refining forge and smithy. But I would soon learn that my plans would be interrupted. Fight! Everything just fight. Oh. No. Oh, god damn it, we're losing everything. So one of my baby allos was killed and I lost my Deinonychus, so we're not off to a great start here. But at least my Megaraptor survived, unlike my poor allo. With day arriving, I wanted to make sure that something like this will not happen again for a while, so I started to place down wooden spike walls around my base. With the house more secure than ever, I went out to go and gather some wood and thatch. The baby allosaur from earlier is now an adolescent, so he'll be joining us really soon. I proceeded to go over to the small body of water to collect a little bit of metal from the river rocks. After collecting my small bounty, I proceeded to go back to base where I would then put it into my new refining forge. I then made myself a mortar and pestle and finally crafted the smithy. The smithy is huge because it allows me to craft the metal tools that I've been longing for. So I made a pickaxe, and of course I had to craft a shovel because I really want to use that treasure map. On day 11, I noticed that my allosaur was completely fully grown. Next up, I started turning flint into spark powder. Now, I want to go and use the shovel that I got on this treasure chart, but my only mount is my raptor, since my Deinonychus died and I can't get the Megaraptor saddle yet. Fortunately, it didn't take too long for me to get there, because the raptor is actually kind of insane at parkour. When I made it up, I quickly dug up the treasure chest, and I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know what to expect, considering I've never opened one.
What's this, you f***ing piece of shit?
When I got back to base, I slammed some raw meat down my Megaraptor's throat. Wait. Moving on, I started to repair all of my ghillie suit armor, and then realized I'm level 61, so I can make the Megaraptor saddle. I zoomed in over to the snow, and I realized that I kind of want to build there because it looks insane. I proceeded to watch this Bronto sadly die. I picked some flowers in commemoration, but also so I could get fiber. My metal was starting to smelt really nicely, and I actually had all 50 to make the saddle. How beautiful, we got the Megaraptor saddle. On day 12, the day is amazing, as we can now take my Megaraptor out for its first run, and I'm not gonna lie, this thing looks insane, and it can also strafe to the side, which I don't know if any other creature can do. It has this camo ability as well, but I never really figured it out, although that isn't what its main use is. One of my favorite abilities that it does is this pounce attack that does a ton of damage. But aside from that, it's also extremely good when it comes to its melee attacks, alongside the bleed ability. Although the Megaraptor cannot really be used in packs, so it's not a viable boss fighting creature, it is really good and will be carrying this challenge to an extent. Its hide gathering capabilities are really nice too, as I got 1800 on the first morning of me using it. The Megaraptor is also quite fast for its size, and I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't expecting that. I also wasn't expecting how many levels I would get on my character. Overall, I have to say that this is one of my favorite tames right now. How can I forget its #1 greatest ability, the double jump? When you press space in midair, it does a double jump, which is insanely good for negating fall damage. And it swims fast. Yeah, this is one of my favorite creatures. Enough glazing the Megaraptor. I moved on to go and loot this drop that had a lot of resemblance to the average Call of Duty player. That's a lot of salt. I don't think I need that. I decided to move into the redwoods to see if I can find anything cool in here, and I did find this huge spider that's gonna haunt my nightmares, but that's not what I want to do right now. The redwoods is apparently abundant with elder claws, but I couldn't find any this time. I hope I do get them in the future, but right now they're not a priority. Day 13, and I was still running around the redwoods looking for anything interesting. While I was running out of the redwoods, I noticed Esthyla and Bear fighting, but they actually both died in the fight, which is kind of sad. While admiring this pretty Rex's colors, I got jumped by some raptors, but I decided to just pimp slap them all away with my Mega Raptor. The run home wasn't exactly very challenging considering how fast and mobile this guy is. As time goes on, the Mega Raptor will become one of my main mounts. When I got back to base, it turns out I left the forge on, which lost me a bit of spark powder. Then I started to craft some trank arrows because I wanted to see if I could tame something. I'm still not too sure how that one happened, but moving on, I found this level 135 Pteranodon that I really wanted to trank. So Ebola to the feet and trank arrows to the face, and this guy was knocked out. While waiting for the Pteranodon to starve down, I noticed just how cool my Mega Raptor looks in photo mode. I started to move further down the beach until I noticed this red drop that could be really good considering how overpowered they are on arksurvivalascended. But I had no idea just how good it would be. So I just got an industrial forge from a red drop. This actually happened to me one time before on Astraeos, and I didn't think it would ever happen again. But here we are with a new industrial forge and Rex saddle. I guess also a new Flappy. I put Flappy to the test instantly by making him kill an Allosaur by himself, because I really need the XP on him. Some pecking later and we got a few extra levels on Flappy, which means that he has extra stamina and better weight. Aside from my Allosaur roaring at me, I crafted the Pteranodon saddle. With me now being able to take flight, I took Flappy out and I found this level 135 Rex with a baby. I wasted no time getting back to base to mount on my Mega Raptor to take it over to kill the Rex. Well, that's technically a lie because Flappy got the final hit on the Rex. Moving on, I imprinted on the baby, which means that we now have an even more powerful carnivore than the Mega Raptor, although it is not as mobile. All we have to do now is walk back to base with the Rex following in the background. When I made it back, the Rex had some issues getting inside, but fortunately I just had to move a spike wall. I saw this parasaur walking by, and it was a 140 with no parents for some reason, so it's all mine now. I actually forgot to feed it and it died the next morning. I wanted to fly out to go over to the snow, but I was quickly distracted by this really cool looking tree. On day 15 I made it to the tree and there are some drakelings around here. Since I'm actually playing with the Lost Colony DLC, I decided that I'm gonna tame one. So after I attracted it with my torch, it wanted me to go and kill some things so we can gain some bonding. Kind of a weird way to bond, but I respect it. Some Phiomias and Parasaurs later, it wanted me to go and craft some things for XP. Every time you get done doing something that it wants to, you can feed it a piece of meat. When it wanted me to kill again, I wasn't expecting to take down Lord Coelacanth. Fortunately, there was a Pteranodon nearby that could make up for the lost time. Just like that, I was able to tame my Spring Drakeling. This is Sunny. He is going to be my prominent shoulder mount for the rest of this video. He has a lot of really cool abilities, and I can hold him in my hand, which is super nice. As time goes on, you'll learn more and more about him. Now let's go ahead and do the thing that I set out to do originally. That being going over to the snow to scout for my permanent base location for this video, since I don't want to live in the chalk hills with the Allosaur abundance. In the background of all of my videos, I've always wanted to build in the snow, and I'm not sure why, but I really like the vibe of these places. When I found this perfectly flat area by the blue obelisk, I knew this had to be it. Since I finally bought the Lost Colony DLC, I wanted to use the template hammer to build my main base, but don't worry, I'll be making my own structures later. I then made a mistake of not monitoring my stamina. Some direwolves saw this as a great advantage to try and kill me. I was literally stun locked in this position and I couldn't do anything, but eventually I was able to make it out with just barely any health left. My luck would not continue though, as even with the aspect of Spring from my Drakeling healing my Pteranodon rapidly, I was getting assaulted by this Argy. I thought I had no choice but to get off of Flappy and just start running around since he doesn't have any stamina. But that would be a very, very, very grave mistake.
Hello everybody, my name is Markiplier.
I was cornered by direwolves, and Flappy was chasing me, but he could be used as a meat shield if I just unfollowed him, so rest in peace Flappy, you did not deserve that death. But now, I have to walk back to base over 5,000 meters, which is pretty freaking hard. Or is it? Because I found this level 130 baby direwolf whose parents were getting attacked by some mammoths, so if I just wait, I can tame the baby and I can run back to base. On day 16, I got the wolf tamed, so my main priority is to keep it alive. I guess also keep myself alive because I am freezing and starving, so I made myself a campfire. The side of this cliff is looking like an absolute vibe right now, but I can't say that it's going to be fully safe. I harvested some meat when the sun came up and started to input it into my campfire. I wasn't done with collecting things yet as I wanted to get a bunch of wood and thatch so that I could make myself spike walls. Now we're safe.
3 hours later.
My direwolf is ready to go, so I grabbed out anything I needed from the campfire, picked up my spike walls, and started to head out. My favorite ability of the Drakeling is that it can heal your creature a lot, so I was able to get the wolf up to full HP. I decided to name her Woof. I know it's super creative, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter considering that she saved my life. I wouldn't be going back to base if it wasn't because of her. Look at these stunning graphics on the way back to my base. I couldn't resist just turning off the HUD for it. As time went on, I killed this Mega Raptor that wanted to hunt me, but I got it first. There wasn't exactly anything notable on the way back to base aside from great graphics and cool slow walks. On day 17, me and Woof are getting closer and closer to base. I guess we were also getting jump scared, which isn't optimal. Oh my god! Ugh! I bet you'll be shocked when I tell you that you've seen this Serrata before. That's not relevant though, because I had 2 great babies that I intend to use as my main travel mounts. I don't care if these guys aren't the greatest levels, I just need them for their transporting. I just want an excuse to be able to use them again since I haven't had them since Astraeos. Sadly, the youngest will not be joining us because of its imprint requirements, but the eldest will be. They aren't exactly fast before they're fully grown, obviously, so it's going to be annoying getting him back. I decided that I'm just going to leave him with this long-necked gentleman, and I'll be back for him tomorrow. When I made it back over to my base, my priority now is to pack up everything I have, including the spy gates and everything inside of the base. But also, I want to saddle up my Rex, because I got a pretty nice saddle from the same drop that got me an industrial forge. Before I get completely ready to move though, I need to heal up my Rex with my Drakeling, which isn't going to take too long considering how overpowered it is. This is essentially a look at the next few hours of my day here, as I spent most of it just healing this Rex. Some more healing later, I picked up all of the things that I had stored inside of my smithy. Essentially, the Rex is going to be holding my entire base on its back as we're moving, which is going to be pretty interesting, but thankfully it can actually hold it. The last order of business is waiting until it's finally day 18 so that we can move out. I'm sure that this is gonna go fine, right? Bruh, why? How? It was just with me. The one time I actually choose to tame it, it's dead. Oh, and the Equus is gone too. That's just lovely, isn't it? Pretty fast summary of events, no? Despite me losing my Serrato and Equus, I was able to make it over to my new base where I can now unload everything. I had previously crafted the build hammer, which means that I can finally make those templates I was telling you about. There are some pretty insane ones, like large Viking longhouse. Like, that just sounds so insane to build in a 100 days video, so I'm not going to be doing that. But I will be making the small one right now. To craft the house itself, I'm gonna need a bunch of those structures right there, but I would soon have a lot of problems with this system. For now though, the only thing that I have to worry about is getting the resources required. It's not that difficult, as it is pretty straightforward to just gather items, but at the same time, the amount of structures that you need to make this house is insane. After making a bunch of stone pillars, Manny decided to invade my base. He didn't really bother me too much, but the template system definitely did. This was very easily the least enjoyable part of making this video. On day 21, I was running back to base when I noticed these 2 good level woolly rhinos that would be a very nice addition. Now these guys aren't going to be used as much as they were on Astraeos, but at the same time, me having a nice woolly rhino could be really good in the future. I'm not going to worry about the rhinos right now, as I still have to get a lot of structures for this house. Like, yes, the auto build at times was really good, allowing me to build all the pillars, but some of the walls that should be placed definitely didn't work. Also, the amount of structures here really confused me as it kept going up over time. I realized that the strategy might not be the auto build, but rather the manual building. Since the game didn't tell me what structures I'm going to require to build the house, I just kind of learned a bunch of random wooden things and crafted them. Eventually though, I did find a tutorial that shows me how many structures I need in total. On day 22, it's more of the same as I'm adding even more structures by myself, and I realized just how many of these I'm gonna have to fill in. Sometimes the building worked flawlessly, and other times even with auto building it wouldn't fill anything in. And then the structures required went up again. It literally told me that over a dozen structures are actually unknown, so I'm gonna have to figure them out myself, I guess. Oh yeah, and the structures required went from 400 to 605. Just look at this. There's no reason why I shouldn't be able to place this triangle slope wall. Sometimes I wanted to rip my hair out doing this, but other times it was pretty satisfying when I was actually able to build. Unfortunately, it was not the latter the most of the time. This is where I actually looked up the tutorial to see how many structures of everything I would need. And it really helped because I wouldn't have thought of using some of these. As you can see, I had to learn quite a bit of engrams for this, and that's just the wooden ones. The roof was exceptionally annoying to build because of all of these pillars and fences combined. I decided that I would just make it myself though, without using using the building hammer since it was broken. Ultimately, this is the strategy that helped me finish the house in the end, because all I did was place down the structure in the place that it wanted me to without the building hammer. On day 23, I continued building the stupid corner pieces of the roof. While the manual building strategy did work, it did cause me to miss out on quite a bit of the house, so I'm gonna have to fill all that in soon. To be honest, I didn't do all of those fences on the roof. Anyway, I'm done talking, I'll just skip.
3 hours later.
The house was finally done, somewhat, but at the same time, it does miss a lot of its character due to the things that were on top of the roof, but I can't really care too much about that. As you can see, I also added the frontier skin to every single structure because it helps it build character. Overall, yes, it looks good, but will I be using this in the future? No. On day 24, I had already packed up the old house and moved the crafting structures into the new one, but I didn't move the creatures in until now. I made the decision that I wanted to place my smaller creatures inside of the house for some reason. At least I'll know they'll be safe in here. I thought this place would be perfect to put the refining forge in as well, but unfortunately it does clip through the roof and look stupid. Since I don't want to go and get the walls for my base right now, I decided to do a side quest to try and get an RG. Unfortunately, this would take me a while, as a lot of wolves didn't want me to do this, not to mention the fact that there are so many UDs on this goddamn map. On any other map that I've ever done a challenge on, I've always struggled to get a UD, so hopefully this time I don't have much of a problem. Eventually, I did find this level 145 RG, so once I killed its mate, all I had to do was trank it out. Yeah, I wasn't able to knock it out. That's okay though, as I'm sure it'll come down eventually. Spoiler, I immediately lost it. But fortunately, I did find a substitute RG that would be really— oh, my rhino's dead. So what had happened was a rogue UD showed up to my base to eat all of my tames, but fear-roared only my rhino and it ran away with the UD following, taking one for the team. I held on to its soul essence for commemoration. I had to go and avenge it though, as I went over to kill the level 100 UD that was already fighting a mammoth. And would you look at that, the mammoth had 2 twin level 140 babies, so I guess the rhino had a good sacrifice as I got a nice payout. On day 25, I imprinted on one of the mammoths, but the other one wanted beef jerky, so I just kinda left it behind. With my brand new mammoth Peaches, the second that I settle her up, we're gonna get a lot of wood and thatch, as she is a really good gatherer. Unfortunately, I still don't have an RG, so I set out with my Megaraptor to go and get just that. This one time, I don't really care what the RG level is as long as it's above 75, so I'm not gonna be too picky if I see a level 100. In my search, I think I found a penguin sanctuary. Like, why are there so many here? If I ever need polymer, I know exactly where to go. After I leveled up my Megaraptor, I noticed this Daedon that was trying to kill a baby RG, so you already know what I had to do after. My first ever mid-air tame. This is likely going to take forever to take back to base because of how slow this dude is, but at the same time I can't even be too mad. Hey, check this out, I found a red baby Kairuku that I'm going to tame, and now he's going to be part of my army. Isn't he just so cute? Anyway, I named him Red Kowalski. He's gonna be chilling at base for most of the time, but he is pretty cool. In this moment, the only thing that I have to do is get both of these guys back to base, which is going to take a while considering I'm walking a penguin and a baby eagle. On day 26, I'm doing nothing but elaborating on that statement, as I'm just walking these two back. Eventually, Red Kowalski was grown up, so that means I can hold him in my lap, which is pretty cute. Despite the RG being able to fly when it was a baby in the wild, it just refuses to right now when it's an adolescent. I proceeded to have a crisis with this UD, as Red Kowalski escaped from me and then started fighting it for some reason. When I was distracted with Kowalski, I didn't notice that the Argentavis was being brutalized by some direwolves, and by the time that I tried to help it out, it was already too late. I got some okay saddles from this yellow drop, but it's nothing that I actually need. I then found a red one that could have some better items in it. It only really had electronics and shotgun bullets. Now that we've gotten some decent loot, we have to bring Red Kowalski back to base before I actually go and get another RG. I'm likely just going to leave him right by my bed because there's no use for him to go out anywhere with me. Now that Red Kowalski is safe, it's time for me to lock in and try and get another RG, preferably a baby so I can get the imprint. I found this level 85 that just so happened to have a baby, so I knew I needed it immediately. When it was pummeled full of enough arrows, I was able to finally get the kid. Day 27, and we gotta get this guy back to base. The RG is gonna be one of the most important tames in this challenge just because of how it can take me anywhere with flying and how good it is for metal runs. While we're moving back to base, I'm gonna be healing it with the Drakeling like so. It's going to take me a second to get it over there, but at the same time I feel like it's going to be very worth it. As time goes on, I'm also going to be giving it some of my Drakeling's stored XP, just so that it turns into a very good RG. While approaching base, I started shooting healing beams towards my mammoth, just so that it can get a little bit of extra healing. I lost my RG for a second, but then it flew right back to base with it being completely grown, so that means I just need to get the saddle for it. So I started killing some mammoths for their keratin. I guess also any annoying direwolves that got in my way. But mostly I would be eliminating woolly rhinos because they give a bunch of keratin in comparison to the mammoth. This is essentially going to be my life, just eliminating any creature that drops keratin or chitin until I can afford the RG saddle. After some time, I had everything that I needed, so I returned to base with the Megaraptor. On day 28, I shot the RG with an XP beam that gave it a bunch of levels. I also got a Dragon Horde chest, which I'll show you more about in a second. Moving on, I just turned this level 85 RG into something extremely solid. And it's even better now that I got the saddle. The first venture that I'm going to be doing with this guy is going over to the Dragon Horde chest. Dragon Horde chests can only be obtained through Drakelings, and they're like better supply crates, so I can get some really good items from this. Unfortunately though, they're always very far away from me, so I was struggling to get over there. Even if I have a slow RG, the stamina that it has is definitely making up for it. Also, I found this level 20 Giga, which I'm gonna have to kill later in this video. Moving on, right outside of the Wyvern Scar, I found the Horde chest, which means that I gotta claim it really fast before they burn me up, or I guess freeze me because there's ice wyverns here. Moving on, the loot was not bad, but at the same time the best things that I got was the fur boots. I dropped everything else because I'm not gonna be using flamethrowers in this video. Considering I'm quite poor when it comes to metal, I decided to grab these nodes when I was heading back. With my newly found metal acquired, I started heading back over to base, but when I noticed these oil veins, I got sidetracked. I really thought I could mine them, but apparently not, even though my pickaxe is hitting them. I've got to mark off an oil cave on my map because I really need to get it so that I can have gasoline for the industrial forge, and the generator I plan to craft when I get back to base. For now though, I'm not going to worry about that as it's still quite a bit away. When I made it back to my base, I realized that I don't even have a platform for my industrial forge, so I'm going to have to go and make one soon. This annoying UD was getting too close to my base, and this was a good reminder that I should be making the walls around the house soon. The UD dropped me an Ascendant treasure map, which I have to go and get. At the moment though, this industrial refining forge placement is definitely going to be taking up my time. After throwing some miscellaneous items into my smithy, I set out on my RG once again to go over to this red drop with a ring. It could have some pretty decent things. And oh my, it definitely did, because it gave me a grill and a metal tree platform. I'm gonna have to demolish the tree platform, but place down the grill later. On day 29, it was a rush to get over to the oil cave because I really need this gasoline so that I can fire up the industrial forge. I am poor on metal. I still don't even have a crossbow. But to be fair, I just kind of remembered that I need those items. Usually I get them on the end of like day 3 or something. After getting every known disease from drinking the oil water, I started flying back over to base. When I made it back, I had to go and place the grill somewhere because I haven't actually had a sustainable food source this entire video. But to be fair, I usually get the grill around day 60. With the grill now placed down, I don't really have to worry about my food for a while, but I still have to figure out when I'm gonna get a refining forge, so I learned the fabricator and got to getting the resources for it. While the spark powder was crafting at base, I went to go and get some crystal because I didn't have any. Once I got said crystal, I started to head back over to base, but I wasn't done yet as I wanted to demolish the metal tree platform for the ton of resources that it's gonna give me. Sorry, but unlike Ragnarok, it looks like we're not gonna be having a tree house. The tree platform gave me a pretty solid head start on metal ingots, so the second that I got back into base, I made the hatchet and crossbow. Finally. I made the fabricator as well because I know that I'm gonna need it for any future upgrades. I got it stocked full of some electronics, gas, and metal so I could craft the generator. As soon as it was done, I got to placing it outside and cramming it full of as much gasoline as I could possibly make. Now that the base is powered, I threw all of my spare resources into the fabricator. With my fabricator and generator now crafted and placed, I want to focus on getting myself some fur armor because I'm constantly freezing in the ghillie. But now that I'm suited up in fur armor, we have to focus on getting the industrial forge placed. On day 30, I'm making myself thatched triangle foundations where I can place the refining forge on. I know it's arguably better to use regular square foundations, but I like the design of the triangle ones more, and it's what I've been doing my entire art career. Also, I'd just like to mention, I think I chose this base really well, because just look at that sunset. Moving on, I've gotten all of the thatched triangle foundations that I'm gonna need, so I started placing them down. I don't want my buildings to all look like thatch, so I made it match the house by putting a frontier skin on. Now that that's done, I placed down the industrial forge. With it working now, we can smelt however much metal we want in this entire video. Pretty soon, I'm gonna take my new mammoth, Peaches, out to go and get a bunch of wood and thatch because she specializes in that. Not to mention I took out some woolly rhinos as well. I put all of my remaining metal that I got from the run into the forge and it was smelting up pretty quickly. I still got that Ascendant treasure chart that the UD dropped me, and to be honest, I'm probably gonna head out and go and grab that. I didn't know it at the time, but further down the road in this challenge, these Ascendant treasure charts will be absolutely insane. This drop was honestly pretty good, all things considered, as I got an Ascendant flak helmet that could be really helpful. After equipping my new armor, I decided to experiment with some skins, and I'm not gonna lie, I think I'm looking absolutely amazing. With my new drip acquired, I headed back over to the Chalk Hills for the first time in a while, as I really wanted to get myself a Doed. I want to build those walls around my base soon, and they actually cost a lot of stone, but Doeds are really good at gathering it. I found a level 15 with a baby, and I said that that was more than good enough, because to be honest, they don't really matter in terms of levels. It was a little bit of a scuffle, but eventually the Doed started hiding in its shell, so that meant I had to take out my Drakeling to go and finish them both off. Some were biting at its shell, and it finally died, meaning that I could claim the baby and eventually imprint on it, I hope. I will have to carry it back over to base first, though. On day 31, I'm continuing to care to the Doed while getting it closer and closer to base. The Doed is going to be carrying my stone gathering for the rest of this video, so even if it took me all morning to get it back to my base, that's a price I'm willing to pay. I thought I couldn't get an imprint because it wanted basic kibble, but I didn't know I already had that in my smithy from a drop. After taking out all of the meat from my grill, I started to go into my engrams and learn the entire flak armor set, because I'm gonna need some better protection. I had to make sure despite wearing the new armor I still look good, so I had to put the new skins back on. Next up, I still need a refrigerator to store all of this cooked meat, so I crafted one. I placed it upstairs instead of downstairs, which is a bit questionable all things considered, but I'm sure that it's not gonna bother me too much. I took just over 200 pieces of spoiled meat from my Allosaur, as I have literally no narcotics and I really need some. So I made the mammoth saddle because it can help me gather a ton of narco berries. This is actually my first time using a mammoth in a video, and before this I probably haven't used one in like 2 years, so this is pretty cool. I've wanted to use these guys since the Strayos, but at the same time I haven't really had a great excuse to tame them. Fortunately for me, they're just as good as I remember. And then I remember that you can abduct things with it. I'm sure little buddy's gonna be fine down there. Right? With the amount of narco berries that I got, I was able to make just over 200 narcotics, which is kind of insane for my first real good craft. What I did next is grab the 340 metal that was sitting in my industrial forge, as I haven't really checked much on it. I'm not exactly balling when it comes to my metal, but at the same time I think I'm doing pretty good. I decided that I've waited long enough to start making these walls, so I learned the Doed saddle to get ready to do a big stone run. With the saddle now acquired, I equipped it onto my Doed and set out to go and get however much stone that my heart desires. Overall, this thing was the only reason I was able to finish the gates around my base in a few days. Just look at this little guy. I got more than enough stone to start, so I decided to take my mammoth out to go and get some wood and thatch. Maybe I'm missing something, but I feel like the mammoth is a lot better at getting thatch over wood, so I don't understand why people are glazing. Either way though, this thing is really good. The combat's not bad either. With how many trees she takes down, I should rename her from Peaches to Cenobog in 718. When I got back to base and piled all of my resources, I was only able to craft 9 gateways, which is a lot less than I thought, but I'll still be done really soon. Kinda. Now, on day 32, I did forget to record the morning because I guess I'm slow, but I was able to place down a few more of the gateways and get some more resources. We actually had enough stone to the point where we didn't have to gather any extras, but we did have to break a few more trees and place down 11 more extra gateways on top of the 9 I crafted the other day. Turns out I'm poor when it comes to resources, so I had to go and get some more stone. Fortunately, it didn't take me too long considering it's pretty abundant in the area. Also, what is this black line here? This just shatters my immersion. Either way, I'm gonna continue gathering stone. When I made it back to base, I piled up all of my resources into one huge clump, and when I went to pick it up, this happened to my character. Wait, what? Could somebody what? Explain to me. What is this? So yeah, my character's animations were completely bugged, and I would soon find out a pretty horrific discovery that I'm sure you guys never knew before. This has never happened to me in like my thousands of hours of this game, bro. Come on. What is that on my feet? What? Dude, it almost looks like I'm skateboarding. What if I just start like shredding right now? This is where that bad part comes in. When I unequip my armor, that's my skin. I'm not sure why it's below me, but I'm not a fan of that, and this is just really creepy to me. I had to put this demon out of its misery. Now that I got my stuff back, I've got to focus on getting all of those resources once again so that I can finish crafting the gates and filling them in. After fighting off some direwolves, I noticed that I had an ascendant treasure chart in my mammoth's inventory, so I knew I had to go and do that eventually. For now, I'm gonna finish placing the gates around my base before I start focusing on the big behemoth one at the front. I demolished any remaining small gateways before I started to craft the big one and place it down. There was a little gap in between the big one and the small one, so I had to make a metal spike wall to fill that in. On day 33, I'm continuing to gather a bunch of wood that I'm gonna need to fill in the gateways, as right now the frames are only placed. I don't have any stone at the moment, so I'm gonna need to set out with my Doed to gather some. With all of my resources compiled, I started to craft all of the gates that I could and then place them down. I wouldn't be able to place them all at the same time, so I would have to go for another stone run to finish that up. When I got all of the stone, I picked up my doad with my RG and started to fly back to base, where I would then start crafting all of the gates. Now that they were all ready, I started to place them into the frames, and finally, our base is completed except for the behemoth gate. So I crafted that really quickly, and now our base is completely finished. I got the ingenious idea to take out my Megaraptor and RG over to the Wyvern Scar, because I need a better flyer if I'm gonna try and tame some bigger creatures soon. Let's hope I don't get decimated. All we have to do now is make my way over there without dying, which is kind of easy, but all things considered, there's a Giga blocking my path. When I made it over to the Wyvern Trench, I was almost immediately spotted by some Wyverns on my RG, so I had to take them over to my Megaraptor so he could sort them out. After I was done killing a lot of the Wyverns, I started to actually head into the trench with my RG, where I saw this one lonely egg. When I got to it, it turns out it was just a level 55, but it's also the only one in the trench, so I can't really be bothered to get something better. When I made it over to my Megaraptor, I had to fight off against all of them, but fortunately it didn't take me too long considering that he's an absolute animal. With all of the Wyverns now dead, I can return to base safely without having to worry about getting followed back. On day 34, I was fighting my way back to base. The issue of the UDs was really persistent, as they were absolutely everywhere, and they only continue to rise in numbers as this challenge keeps going. When I made it back to base, I wanted to start farming resources for standing torches, because I can help incubate the wyvern egg with them. I decided to finally use the Lost Colony skill tree and level up Hot-Blooded 3 times so that my health regeneration is insane. Now that I've got the torches, all I had to do was place them down and then light them. With all of the torches lit, I was lucky enough to start incubating the egg. While I'm waiting for the wyvern to hatch, I decided that I'm going to add some things to the windows of my base since they look really bland. With those sorted, we just have to wait for the wyvern to hatch. As soon as it popped out, I claimed it and then gave it a 100% imprint. I had to pick up the standing torches since they were lagging my game, but once they were out of the way, I took the wyvern outside where it's going to raise up. I'm just going to dedicate the rest of my day to healing this guy with my Drakeling and making sure that he's going to be okay. On day 35, it's more of the same, just still waiting for this wyvern to grow up. I don't plan on leaving base until this guy's fully raised. Just before he grew up, I decided to name him Glacier, because I think that's a pretty cool ice wyvern name. With my new flyer ready, that means I have the best possible flyer on this map. It's also very green, which I feel like is a very unique Ice Wyvern combo. I had this XP beam waiting for a while, so I decided to use it on the Ice Wyvern just so I can get it some free levels and an Apprentice Dragonhorde chest. I know the stats aren't the greatest, but to be fair, this was a level 55 when I first got it, so I think it's going to be pretty decent. I wanted to go and grab the Dragonhorde chest that I got for leveling this guy up, and I'm glad I did because I got a 183% compound bow, which is going to be very useful later. I spent the majority of my day flying around the chalk hills until I noticed this Deinonychus nest with a level 145 inside. I can tell you right now that the furthest that I went with that Deinonychus egg is just hatching it. I never actually used it. While flying past the redwoods, I decided to stop at the Broodmother trench. I can confidently tell you right now though that I didn't actually fight the Broodmothers in this video for some reason. I just prioritized all efforts towards Alpha Grendel. On day 36, I'm continuing to explore the redwoods with my wyvern in search of an Elderclaw. If I can get a good level Elderclaw in the next few days, it would revolutionize some of my caving journeys but also be really essential in the boss fight. Sure enough, after some time I was able to find a level 130 Elderclaw, which is going to be what I have to kill right now. Yes, you heard me correct. I have to kill it first, and then when I get the seed for it, I have to put it into a crop plot to raise it. I know, it's silly, but you know, it's a plant. It's literally a frickin' tree bear. After some fighting, I was able to take it down, which means that we got the seed. We just have to go back over to base right now. When we do get back, I have to make myself a greenhouse. Upon arriving at base, I had to unload all of my new resources into my Smithian fabricator, but now I have to focus all of my efforts into making myself that greenhouse. Fortunately, there was a big deposit next to my base. After making all of the greenhouse parts, I had to find a place in my base to place it all down in. I eventually did find a good place to put it all down in, and now that means that all we have to do is get the crop plot. Okay, so it looks like we're actually set and ready to go for this Elderclaw. We just have to plant the seed in here. I'm gonna yap how this taming works really quick. So when you plant the seed, you have to fertilize it, water it, as normal like any other plant. But in this case, you have to give it special things that it wants for its care, and then every time you give it those things, it'll slowly grow up into the next stage, where it'll eventually become a fruitling where you can harvest the Elderclaw for the actual tame. Moving on, I made myself 2 canteens for water storage, and also they're going to be really useful when it comes to watering the plants. Now that I've explained how the tame process works, it's time to actually get started on this. Right now, all of my efforts are going to go into getting this guy everything that he wants, so if he needs biotoxin, I'm going to get him biotoxin. If he needs honey, I'll somehow get him honey.
I decided to take a break from being a parent and go and loot this yellow drop with a ring that had a pretty good flak helmet. On day 37, I decided that I'm gonna go ahead and farm some biotoxin from the nearby Knidara. Biotoxin is actually going to be really important for when I eventually want to tame myself another Elder Claw, you'll see. Fortunately, there's a bay here that contains some Knidara that I can easily get. All things considered, I'm pretty lucky that I was able to find these guys, because usually on arksurvivalascended, these guys are impossible to get. Right next to base, this red drop contained leech blood and ammonite bile, which are conveniently two things that Elder Claws love. These resources made the Elder Claw almost become fully grown. However, when it wanted something like honey, I wasn't actually able to get it to it, so I decided to leave the game and rejoin, which would cause it to re-roll whatever it wanted. After some time of re-rolling, the Elder Claw was now ready. Now, this guy is going to be extremely good in terms of his stats, and he's also going to be carrying some of my caving trips. I decided to name the group bear Pinecone, and I'm going to tend to his needs for the rest of the day. Luckily, he is an omnivore, so he can eat meat and berries. At the end of the day, this guy wasn't even 15% raised, so we're going to be at this for a while. On day 38, I'm going after some drops that I see all over the map. I found this Fasola Suchus saddle, but I don't think I'm going to need it considering I'm pretty sure they don't spawn on this map. If I get any more good loot though, I'll let you guys know. I did not. I still have this Ascendant treasure chart though, and it wasn't too far away from where I'm currently at, so I might as well dig it up.
Let's see. What's it gonna be?
What? How did I even get that? Safe to say I will not be using this in this video. I don't even know how that's possible. I'm pretty sure the cap is 786, and this has never happened before. Never ever. I have never seen something like this, and I will not be using it for that reason. This is insane. You know, I would have loved this kind of luck on my aberration run, but no. Just give me a 300% on there, and then I have to stick with the 711% on a map that don't need a shotgun. I mean, I guess I'll showcase why I'm not gonna use this thing really quick. So yeah, this thing literally one-shots anything. In other words, Pinecone is still not even halfway grown. I'd love to tell you guys that I did something different on day 39 aside from caring for my Elder Claw, but unfortunately that's not the case. I'll just see you guys after he's ready. Just like that, we have one of the most overpowered creatures in the game, and I know what I said before about not liking the Pyromane and whatever, but at the same time, this is a much cooler creature over the Pyromane, and it's not just a fantastic tame, it's part of the Lost Colony DLC, so, you know, we're gonna be playing with this in a month anyway. Overall, I love the Elder Claw, and it was really fun to use in this video. I'm gonna start killing anything in a mile radius for any amount of XP right now. Day 40 was pretty much the exact same thing, as anything that moved would pretty much die. I was also trying out the new Spirit Totem because I heard something really cool happens when you get a certain number on it. I didn't realize that you would actually only get that buff if you detonated the totem, so that's why I was really confused here. I'll show you guys what happens in a second. So yeah, I killed everything that was next to the totem, and now I grew to the size of a Rex. Sadly though, this buff wouldn't last for very long, but I'm sure on Lost Colony, when there's a lot of enemies in one area, this would be really insane, and I'm probably gonna tame another one when we do that challenge. To sum up day 40, I literally spent the rest of the day running around on the Elder Claw testing out its new abilities, and you'll see them in action pretty soon.
Day 41 started with a return home with my Elder Claw, since I think I've leveled him up enough for now. On my run back, I found this level 145 baby Yudi that I knew I needed to add to my tames, but I couldn't find the parent anywhere around here. Some searching later, I found the adult, and decided that me and my Elder Claw will have to be the baby's new legal guardians. Now with the parent gone, I can claim the baby, meaning that this is officially the earliest I have ever gotten a UD tamed in one of my videos. Kind of shocking considering that I've always gotten these guys really late in my videos. The problem now is that it's going to take me a sec to take this guy back to base, because he is quite slow, but still faster than the RG when it was a baby, so it's not really that bad. Nonetheless, walking this little guy back to base was quite tedious as I had to defend him from various different creatures chasing him. Considering that the walk back was pretty much the same the entire time, I don't want to show too much of it. When we eventually did arrive at base, I opened the gate for him and he went right through, meaning that I've secured myself a great support tame that will be definitely carrying the boss fight. All I need to do now is make sure that he's not going to starve to death. Sounds pretty easy. I started off day 42 by collecting the cooked lamb chops in my grill that I got from killing the Ovis from earlier. I decided that I'm going to leave base to see if I can find a Rex, hopefully a male of a good level, because I need a breeding partner for my current one. After verifying that my UD won't starve in my time away, I set out on my wyvern in search of this elusive Rex. I set out with my wyvern towards the pine forest, and if I don't get a Rex here, then I'll start searching in the chalk hills. To my surprise, when I was going to perch to kill some allosaurs, I noticed a level 140 male Rex, which is absolutely insane. I swear I didn't stage this. Moving on, I can't waste any time tranking this guy out. I need to get to it right now. Oh, yeah. Well, that was easy, but I don't trust the things around this area, so I should probably get myself some spikes around the wreck so that it doesn't get damaged. I started off day 43 by gathering some resources so that I can make wooden spike walls for the wrecks, because if it does get damaged, the taming effectiveness gets completely ruined. I also noticed a galley in complete purgatory, but instead of freeing it, I left it there. Please don't tell Syntac. Once I was done gathering the fiber, I started crafting the walls. Now that they were all placed down, the main thing that I need to do was wait. I already had more than enough prime meat to tame it. As you can guess, this process of waiting was not very enjoyable at all. This Diplo seemed to be really interested in my Rex for some reason, but sadly I can't let it be friends with it for now. There wasn't much longer for me to wait now, but I still decided not to feed it for my own convenience. All this chaos around the Rex shows exactly why I made these spike walls. Just look at the raptors and Ceratos running freely around here. I decided to just feed the Rex, but sadly it was still 1 feet away from being fully tamed, which sucks, but I am willing to wait. Okay. Sometime later, it was finally tamed. This means we finally have a good breeding pair of Rexes, and I intend to start that breeding when I get back to base. So instead, what I decided to do was take it over to the green obelisk so that I can upload it and transfer it by the blue obelisk right next to my base. This soon turned into an all-out brawl between my creatures versus pretty much everything around me, including the bison and the other miscellaneous dinos. Eventually though, I was able to claim the bison mid-fight, but this just jeopardized them even more, and my Rex and Wyvern were getting really low, so I had to jump in to help them. Ultimately, I came out on top and destroyed them all, but it was a pretty close shave. On day 44, I was locked in healing my creatures, and also realizing that I can't imprint on the level 145 bison because it wants something I don't have. But it's good that I was able to claim this 130 because I was able to imprint on that. It looks like I'm just gonna be breeding out the good stats later. After some more excessive healing shots fired from my Drakeling towards my tames, it was time to head back over to the obelisk. As the sun was starting to come up, my 130 bison was now fully grown, meaning that I have a very good movement mount or cave-in creature. The other one still isn't really ready, but that's okay as I'm willing to wait. After fighting off a rogue Therizino, all that was left to do was bring them all over to the obelisk terminal. I should really just get cryopods. By the time I made it to the terminal, my other bison was also fully grown, which is a nice plus. But when I was about to upload them both, I noticed that I still have my Griffin from my Ragnarok 100 days in the terminal, because I uploaded him to the terminal after my last video was done, but don't worry, I won't be taking him out. Moving on, with all of my new tames uploaded to the Ark data, it's time to get over to the blue obelisk. After I passed over my base, I made it over to the obelisk where I transferred all of my creatures out, meaning that I just have to walk them over to my base and I can relax for a few days. A short walk later, I made it home and I went inside to craft a few air conditioners so that I can actually hatch the Rex eggs, but the bison on the other hand don't lay eggs, so that's a bit of a saving grace. On day 45, with my air conditioners placed down, it's time to breed the Rexes and bison so that I can get a good female from each of them, and I'm going to summarize this bit as much as I can. The first round of babies that I got were not at all what I was looking for. The bison had twins with both of the bad stats, and the Rexes had a boy with the good health but bad melee, so none of them stayed with us for much longer. Oh well, back to the breeding I go. Once I collected another Rex egg, I decided to hatch them all in bulk instead of one at a time. As for the bison, I'll be sure to show whenever I manage to get a good one, but it may not happen for a while, and this is pretty much what my day looked like though. Just waiting for the good babies to pop out and sitting on top of this beam like Spider-Man. I got one more bison at the end of the day. It had decent stats, but the issue is that he was a male, so we couldn't keep him. I started the day off with another bison that was pretty much a replica of the other day, which was pretty annoying. I still have a good bit of Rex eggs I haven't hatched, but I'm prepared to do so in about a day. A little while later, I once again got a 1-to-1 scale model of the last two bison, but on the bright side, at least Nightmare got a good meal. But finally, the next bison was exactly what I needed, being a female with all of the good stats. This means that the bison line is ready, but I still have to hatch all the Rexes, which is what I'm going to be doing right now. All I have to do is watch the sun come up while awaiting for all 10 eggs to hatch. Sometime later, all of them were hatched, and to be honest, I was shocked because 4 of them were exactly what I needed, so now I have 4 boss breeding females that will carry the upcoming segment. But as for the remaining males... With all of my tiny armed tyrants tamed, I was tasked with having to take care of them until they were fully raised, and when they are, it's time to breed them as many times as possible. Same for the bison, of course. Aside from shooting them with some healing beams every so often, that was pretty much the gist of day 46. On day 47, I was greeted with my bison having finally reached adulthood, so that's really nice. Sadly, my Rexes are still quite young. In the meantime, I did slightly level up my Yudi, who I just shot with a healing beam after doing so. Sometime later, the Rexes were just over halfway grown, but I didn't want to waste a day away at base, so I decided to leave and go for another Elder Claw, since I can effortlessly raise one now. If my 130 was that good, imagine what a 145 to 150 could be like. It would be insane. So I wasted no time getting myself over to the Redwoods as soon as possible. But just as I started searching, my game completely crashed. So now I'm unsure as to where I last saved it, so let's hope I didn't lose too much progress. Well, I spoke way too soon. I'm on day 46 again, and before all of the Rexes were even hatched. This is a mild setback, but this time I decided that I would claim any Rex that has good health, and it wouldn't matter if its melee was bad, I only care about the health for their survivability in the fight. So when they were all hatched again, I claimed mostly every single one, giving me a grand total of 8 boss Rexes, and not breeders. These guys are going to be fighting in the Alpha arena, but the majority were still female, so they could still do their breeding job just fine, but a label doesn't really matter. During the next segment, I'm gonna have to be leveling all of the Rexes, and getting a few extra ones, as I plan to go into the Alpha fight with 14 Rexes, 3 Bison, 2 Elder Claw, and a Yudi. It'll be annoying to get the other Elder Claw, but I could care less in the moment. So it's time for me to go ahead and just feed these guys, and set out for the Elder Claw on day 48, because I already technically went through day 47, and I just was reverted to day 46 at the very end. So I'm just gonna use commands to take me ahead and skip this day so I don't have to do it again. You know, it's only fair. In the morning of day 48, I placed down a feeding trough for my Rexes so that they don't starve while I go to get the Elder Claw again. But no, as soon as I left base, my game crashed again. But this time, I made sure to save before I left, so I wasn't really reverted too far back. With my journey continuing, I have now made it to the Redwoods. I need to explore every corner in hopes of getting myself a good Elder Claw. Initially, I only found a blue drop with a ring that contained an Anki saddle and a better crossbow for me, but my luck would soon turn around. When I was flying around the Broodmother Trench, I found myself a random Elder Claw, but decided to check on the Broodmother inside instead, and after realizing I probably shouldn't be fighting it, I went up to go and fight the Elder Claw without seeing its level first. So it was a brutal fight, and midway through I realized that it was actually a level 145. So no wonder why it was a brutal fight. This is insane. So after I killed it, I made sure to go straight back to base so that I could raise this thing. It took me a while to get back to base, so when I returned, a lot of my Rexes were already above 75% maturation, which is pretty much almost adulthood. It looks like an insane cluster of them here that's lagging me. On day 49, I put the seed into my crop plot and I started tending to its needs. I wasn't able to get any of the honey, but everything else that it asked for, I was able to get. But if it asked for honey, I would just have to leave and rejoin. Some leaving and rejoining later, the Elder Claw finally became a middling, which means that it's almost there to becoming a fruitling where I can harvest it for its actual tame. A lot of rejoining and even more feeds later, the middling became a fruitling, meaning that I was able to harvest it for the now level 217 female inside. This is insane, as it means that I have a breeding pair of Elder Claws, and I may just be able to bring these two into the boss fight as is. This Elder Claw is going to give Pinecone a run for his money. As I took the Elder Claw out of the greenhouse, all of my Rexes simultaneously grew up right in front of me, which was either terrifying or really good, but I'm gonna say both. Don't worry, I was able to get the Elder Claw imprinted, and its stats are amazing. It almost has 10,000 health and 400 melee. Now that my Rexes are fully grown, I need to start moving them over to a different part of my base, because these guys being clumped up is really lagging my game. This won't take more than a second, I'm sure.
3 hours later.
It 100% did take me more than a second, but the Rexes are now all organized in one straight line, and I'll be ready to mass produce a bunch of eggs and boss fighters in the coming days. I'm definitely gonna need an Oviraptor though. On day 50, I'm continuing to care for my new Elder Claw. I made sure to go and get some new food for her, but it doesn't really matter what I feed her considering that she's an omnivore. I decided that instead of being a stay-at-home parent all day, I'd go out and tame an Oviraptor so that I can automate my egg collection when I start to breed the Rexes. I noticed that there was an Oviraptor spawn pretty close to my base at a beach, so I decided to leave to check that out. Upon arriving, I did find an Oviraptor, and I wasted no time knocking it out, but sadly after a few tranks it decided to run into the water, and when it got knocked out it drowned itself. Does nobody want to be my friend? I realized that I didn't even have the eggs required to tame an Oviraptor on me, so I returned to base. After getting said eggs, I started heading back over to the beach as I had just explored a tiny part of it while searching for the Oviraptor. When I arrived back at the beach, I started searching just a bit further and I found another Oviraptor with the level of 135. I didn't even wait a second to start tracking it, and after just a few, it was finally down, meaning all I have to do is cram some Rex eggs into its inventory and I'll have myself an automatic egg collector. Sometime later, the Oviraptor ate the eggs and was now mine. I also actually tried to name it for once and decided on Obi-Wan. That's good. You can't lie. Don't look at me with that face. I know it's good. Moving on, I picked up Obi-Wan and started flying back to base. And just know that the second that this dude gets dropped off, it is go time. Well, that was eventful. It looks like I got myself a pretty good army here. They are all really good, with the Rexes and Elderclaws having 30,000 health and the Bison having 25,000. Paired with some good saddles that I may eventually get, these guys will be insanely good. I decided to go and collect the Dragon Horde chest, as I had gotten one for leveling up my UD, and it's actually pretty close to base. Sadly, the loot itself wasn't too good, but I guess it wasn't awful either. After getting back to base, I decided that the next order of business would have to be taking out my Elderclaw to go over to the Chalk Hills to kill Argentavis, Rexes, Brontos, Allosaurs, and many more for their tributes. Fortunately, I can just kill the Argentavis right next to my base since there's a huge flock of them here, but as for the rest of the creatures, I gotta venture out. It would take me a second to get over to the hills, but the only thing holding me back was my Elderclaw's horrible swimming speed. On day 62, I arrived at the Chalk Hills for the first time in a while, ready to start slaughtering anything in my path. And what better way to show me doing this than a huge montage? Well, I was able to finish collecting the Allosaur brains and almost done the Argentavis talons, but sadly I am still lacking on the T-Rex arms and sauropod vertebrae, but I'm sure I will have time for those as there are bigger fish to tackle, such as the Gigahearts. On day 63, I've made it back to base with all of my new tributes, and now I want to go ahead and get that Gigaheart. But you may be asking how I'm going to achieve that goal. Well, I'm finally going to put my Rhino to good use, as when it charges, it actually does more and more damage depending on how fast it's going. So I shot it with an XP beam from my Drakeling, sacrificed like 42 Rexes, and leveled up its stamina and damage so much that it could probably run through a metal wall. I remember seeing that level 20 Giga earlier, so I wanted to head out over there to see if it's still roaming. The run there wasn't too bad considering that the Rhino is an absolute track star, and when I had arrived, I found the Giga pretty quickly, which is fair considering how big they are. Now I just have to charge at it every so often, damaging it as much as I can, and if it hits me, I just go and leave to heal my Rhino with the Drakeling. I was doing over 3,000 damage a hit with the Rhino, which is insane and means that I should be able to effortlessly take this guy down. A lot of hits later, I killed her and she dropped me her heart as a reward. The sad thing is that this fight took almost all day and I still need to kill one more for the alpha fight. Oh no. I started off day 64 by looting a pretty alright red drop that contains some food and a good Mosasaurus saddle. Currently, my only goal is to run the Rhino back to base so that I can deposit the Gigaheart. You'd think that I would arrive faster, but the Rhino proceeds to be pretty slow even when it is charging because you can easily lose control of it. When I eventually did arrive, I threw the heart into my smithy alongside the rest of my tributes. And now that I've gotten everything sorted, I realized that there are still some artifacts left to go. So I decided to start in the Brute Cave, which consists of 2 artifacts, but I didn't realize I would only be able to really get one of them, and I also only need one of them. So I picked up Nightmare with my Wyvern and started heading out to my waypoint. If I had brought more grappling hooks with me, I would have been fine to get both artifacts in here, but it doesn't really matter at all. I enabled auto run on my Wyvern just so that I can sit back and enjoy the flight, since while I'm flying, that is valuable time I could spend playing Raid Shadow Legends. On day 65, I arrived at the cave and pressed a button to open up the door so that I can head inside. Moving forward, I started to fight off against the dozens of bats and Arthros that were in this cave, and I'm actually kind of shocked as how many there were in here. here. Fortunately, they were all pretty easy to kill and I didn't have to struggle at all with that. I did have to take my armor off though because I was paranoid about an Arthro spitting on me and breaking it all. Luckily for me, that didn't happen and I was able to continue traversing through the cave. I was pretty on point with taking out all of the enemies, so after making it through a few more chasms, I managed to make it into the artifact room, but it is actually glitched right now, so I had to ghost mode to get it out from under the floor. Thanks, Ark. At this point, I was actually thinking that I needed the second artifact in this cave to start the boss fight, but that wasn't the case at all, so I was really disappointed, but I would soon forget about all of that. On day 66, I had already left the cave, and it is now time for me to start another one, so that I can actually make my time here useful. So I set out on my wyvern once again towards the next cave. This one contains the artifact of the crag, which should be fairly easy and not as bad as what I just went through. For some reason, my waypoint took me to the aberration area, and I was really confused why it wasn't down here when I checked it out. Unfortunately for me though, I would be back here shortly. Turns out that the tutorial just lied to me, and those were the wrong coordinates, and I soon headed out back up to the surface where I would soon find the real entrance. I didn't realize it at the time, but this was actually the lava cave, and I would have to be really careful when making my jump since I could lose my stuff and my Mega Raptor really quickly with one wrong move. Luckily enough for me, Nightmare is an absolute athlete and jumped over everything effortlessly, getting me across the pillars and over to the artifact, because for some reason it's not hidden away in a room, it's just over this little batch of lava. I had to make a pretty risky jump to get to it, so I placed down a sleeping bag just in case something goes wrong. After one swift jump, I made it over and grabbed the artifact of the crag, meaning that I can leave the cave without any further complications. Looks like it's off to the next one. On day 67, I was tasked with going out to get another artifact, this time being the Gatekeeper. But once again, I didn't do my research because it was in the aberration red zone underground, and I needed a hazmat suit to get down there. So now I have to go down into the aberrant lands to find red gems that I can turn into a gas collector so that I can place it down on a vein for congealed gas balls, and then I have to make that into the suit. Not fair. I'm gonna essentially get the gems, make the collector, place it, and continue doing other artifacts while it is gathering everything for me. But the hardest part is going to get the red gems since they only spawn in the radiated red zone. Or I could unlock 100% of my brain power and try and find myself a very specific creature down here. If I could get myself a lamprey, I would have zero issues getting down to the red zone to retrieve the artifact, and I could do it right now. These guys suction onto you like leeches, but instead of poisoning you, they give you radiation immunity for several minutes. So the second I get one and he latches on, I can go grab some red gems that I can turn to a gas collector. I made it over to the river and found a pretty solid level lamprey, which soon grew rather attached to me. And with my new friend, I headed out to the red zone, and sadly, my Mega Raptor could not go in with me because of the fact that it isn't immune to the radiation. If it was though, I could have gotten the artifact right now, but it looks like we'll have to come back with a collector instead. So after looting a few drops, I saw a tree fall in front of me, and I knew that's where I had to call it quits. On day 68, I emerged out of the aberration area, ready for more caving. There was only one more ahead of me before I have no more excuses but to do the aberration artifact, so I had to head over to base first. It did take me a little bit longer than I had hoped, considering I had to take the Mega Raptor back, since it didn't want to be picked up by my wyvern for some reason. And when I did make it back, I deposited all of my resources and artifacts into storage, so I grabbed my new fur pants so that I can head into the snow cave, which is right next to my base. After I was done regaining my breath from doing all of these voiceovers in one take, I mounted onto my Elder Claw and headed out to go and gather the artifact of the Destroyer. I'm glad I don't have to collect all 10 artifacts on this map, and rather only 4 for the alpha fight. It's pretty relieving. While I'm running there, I have the idea that once I get all of the tributes required, whether I'm on day 100 or not, I will start the alpha fight and get off of this map. For now though, I headed into the cave where some high-level polar bears and wolves were waiting for me. Luckily, my Elder Claw is really tanky, so she was able to take them all down. I was not as lucky with these two Purlovias though, and they managed to knock me back to the bottom of the cave where I was mauled by bears and wolves alike. I got out of the cave and decided that I need to craft the gas collector as soon as I can. I already have the gems, and those are the hardest part of making the collector. I needed some extra crystal if I wanted to make it though, but I had some saved at the front of my base for such situations, so I was able to gather the crystal and craft the collector. I wasted no time and grabbed Super Bison with my wyvern as I was heading out, because she can quickly get me down to the place I need to be in the aberration area. After arriving, I ran down with my bison at lightning fast speeds to go and plant down my gas collector at a vein, which I did. I made it out on day 70 and started to fly back to base with Super Bison. After dropping her into base, I decided that the next order of business should be gathering a lot of metal because I am quite broke on it, and I really need Rex and Bison saddles within the next little bit. So I set out with my Argentavis for the first time in a while to collect some metal all around my base in hopes of collecting enough for the Rex saddles. This was frankly my entire day, but it's good that I got around to it because I got 2,000 raw metal that I can turn into saddles once I smelt them in my forge. Overall though, very boring day with a lot of pickaxe swinging. On day 71, I had to continue my creature massacre
replicas for the tributes that I need. So I took my rhino out again to kill a few Argentavis for their talons. If these guys weren't right next to my base, I would have struggled with getting them, to be honest. With the talons now finished, I had to tackle things like the sauropod vertebrae and Rex arm, so I'll check in with you guys soon. Well, I only really got a few vertebrae from the big necks and barely any Rex arms. If I want to get it done, I should head over to the Chalk Hills. On day 72, it's more of the same. I'm now in the Chalk Hills killing every creature that I can find, and the goal today is to finish the Rex arms and sauropod vertebrae. I'll do my best to summarize it in a few seconds. I managed to get both of those tributes now finished, so we need to continue the grind, and yes, I'm going to keep doing all of these montages until I have everything I need to start the boss fight. Today on day 73, I want to tackle the Sarco skins and Titanoboa Venom, which may take me a second but shouldn't be too difficult considering that they're both really easy to kill and they spawn everywhere in the swamp. Again, that was my entire day. Day 74 had one of the most stressful starts to a day I think I've ever had in a video. I managed to find a level 50 Carcharodontosaurus that I planned to take down for its heart for the last tribute. And as I was attacking it, I realized that I don't have nearly enough stamina for this. So I ran, but to my horror, the Carchara was keeping up with my rhino. I tried moving into some other creatures to distract it, but it kept chasing me, and I was forced to abandon this tribute hunt for now. It's not done yet though, because as I was running away, a bison dismounted me off of my mount and started to brutalize me and my rhino. Eventually, I was able to get back onto the rhino, but it was seriously damaged and I had to retreat. It's safe to say that this was a very quiet run back home after this, and yes, it did take me majority of the day to do this because my rhino had issues regaining stamina after getting its spleen rearranged. So do you remember what I said about yesterday being the most stressful day ever? Well, I take it back. Just play what happened. I'm actually so deeply disturbed at how that entire conflict went. How did he die? That was so stupid. After killing a direwolf, I had to deal with a rampaging wild rhino who was still really pissed at me. Once he was down, I thought I wouldn't be able to get any more good rhinos, and his sacrifice was for nothing. But then, Ark sent me an apology in the form of a baby rhino, level 145. Okay, so, upgrade. After a 100% imprint and trip back to base, I decided that I'm going to be a stay-at-home parent until it's fully raised, then I'll level it up. Hey, at least it won't get massacred by more of its own kind. It was only 60% grown by the end of the day, so looks like we'll have to use it on day 76. With my rhino now ready, I shot it with the Drakeling and it got 30,000 XP, which is the max that you can get from one. And instantly, it got 60 levels, and that's not broken at all, right? At the very least, it deals the same amount of damage as to my old rhino, and it has 2,000 more health with double the stamina, so no more incidents occur. Next up, I took out Super Bison with my Wyvern because we have to visit the Aberration Zone again for my congealed gas balls. I'm about to beat the map at this point. When I had arrived, me and my Bison wasted no time sprinting down into the extremely pink Aberration biome, where I admit I got kind of lost. Some intense traversing later, I made it to the edge of the red zone where I had placed the collector, and I had 156 congealed gas balls ready to be turned into a hazmat suit. So once I got those, I grabbed plenty of blue gems that I'd need as well. So the second we get back to base, we can craft the suit and head out to get the final artifact. On day 77, I am still flying back to base, but I can't wait until I get back so that I can finally get the hazmat suit to finish this last cave. After arriving back to base, I threw all of my resources into the fabricator, gathered some extra crystal, and crafted the hazmat suit. Next up, I had an Ascendant Dragon Horde chest that I got from leveling up my Rhino with the Drakeling earlier, so if the mid-tier loot was that good, I cannot wait to see what this one's gonna offer. So one quick collect later, and oh my god, that is insane. I've gotta say, this loot is making me look extremely dripped out with this new fit. Moving on, now that I have the suit crafted, we can go into the cave, but I'm deciding to hold back for now as I want to gather metal for the rest of the day instead of leaving to do the cave since I need a lot more for the Rex and Bison saddles. Off we go. I managed to get 1350 metal, which should be fine enough to get myself all of the saddles. Another day, another montage. It's time to get myself a ton of hide. My creature of choice for this gathering trip is going to be my Mega Raptor because he's mobile, has good damage, and collects a lot. No point wasting time now. Well, we managed to get 3600 hide that I can put towards Rex saddles, and the metal I have is going to be great for this. So when I arrived back home, I started to craft all of the Rex saddles that I needed, which was 10 because I already had 4 from good drops. I'll have to equip the saddles later though, because I just got a really good idea. I'm gonna go to the place where I initially found the first Giga, so if there's another one there I can kill it, because Gigas are a lot easier to kill over the Karkaros, as we've seen. When I had arrived to the exact same place, there was not a Giga to be seen. Wait, what's that in the mountain? So there actually is a Giga here, but I didn't see it because it was blended in. I guess you can miss them even if they're huge. Oh well, wish me luck here. With the final heart acquired, it's time to head back to base so that I can deposit it and get ready to do the next final cave. Arriving at base, I was ready to start venturing into that cave. But first, I wanted to get my Rexes saddled up, and I realized that I'm going to have to heal these guys a lot. And I do have a plan for doing that I'll show after we get all of the tributes at the terminal. I started off day 80 by crafting 1 UD saddle and 2 Bison saddles for the remaining ones that didn't have any. Aside from their healing, my boss army is ready to go. I can't drag this on any longer. I crafted myself a glider suit that I will put onto my hazmat for easier transportation in the red zone, and once it was on, I flew out with my wyvern. Arriving, I left my wyvern at the entrance while I dived in with my glider, ready to take down anything in my path. I was able to mostly glide all the way down to the entrance of the red zone, but when I was about to enter, I started taking radiation damage, because I didn't put the boots on. Oops. I also noticed my Drakeling is taking damage, and I don't want him to die, so I left him at the start of the trench. There are also Reapers and Rock Drakes down here, but I don't really care for them considering it's kind of late in the playthrough and to be honest, the aberration zone on Valguero is mid. I should reiterate that statement. The arksurvivalascended aberration on Valguero is mid. Moving on, I was getting screwed over by some nameless, who were spawning because I didn't have a light pet, so I had to rush over and try and panic tame this baby featherlight, but it didn't help me much. However, I was able to grab some mushrooms from some lower bushes and use them to tame up a glowtail, which would be carrying my adventure down here, preventing all nameless / Reaper spawns. I managed to collect a very important red drop that had a focal chili inside, meaning that it gives me a 15% movement speed buff. This could be really useful for going to rush into the artifact. I continued fighting my way through the trench, and as I got closer to the artifact, I noticed 3 oversized ketamine crabs guarding it, who I had to guide away with my flamebow. On day 81, I wasted no time grabbing the artifact once the Karkanos were distracted. Just like that, that means that we have every single artifact that we need for the Alpha Grendel fight. Even though my hazmat suit is almost broken, we managed to make it out. I mean, I guess this red zone looks kind of cool, but at the same time it's just nothing compared to the real aberration. Moving on, I had to get rid of my glowtail, so he'll have a fun time down there, I'm sure. Now that I've picked up Sunny, it's time to get out of here and hope that the hazmat suit doesn't break. I guess it wouldn't have hurt to actually pick up a rock drake egg, but to be fair, I don't think that there's enough time in this challenge to really make use of it. When I made it up to the surface, I wasted no time mounting onto my wyvern so that I could head back to base. When I made it back to base, I grabbed all of my tributes from my smithy, getting ready to start this fight. But wait, I still haven't healed any of the Rexes, so I'm gonna tell you guys how I'm gonna do that shortly. Firstly, it's pretty obvious that I can't just get all of these guys out through the Behemoth Gateway and actually have brain cells after it, so I have a cooler idea. Do you remember when I got that rocket turret on day 14? With me now making it over to the obelisk, I have to sort all of my creatures in a big circle. This would help optimize how many of them get into the fight when I do summon the Grendel. Now here's the part I was telling you guys about the healing. I'm going to sit on all of my creatures for at least a day with my Drakeling to help them heal. At this point, there's not much that I can really do on Valguero. I know I've discussed the things that I could do in the Aberration Cave, but all of those things are just obsolete to me right now. I just want to beat Alpha Grendel and prove to you guys that it is possible. Everything that we've been doing has been leading up to this moment, Alpha Grendel. Now, I would argue that this is the hardest boss in the entire game. Not even Medusa can compare to this boss, just because of the minions that he has. One slight mess up in here, and it's going to cost me the entire boss fight, so I have to be extremely careful. There's not a point wasting any more time. Let's get right into this, and wish me luck. Get off of me! You numbnuts. Kill the goddamn... Wait, over there. Oh, there he is. All walked into that. They're all hurt. Like, dangerously hurt. Oh, they're just dropping. Oh, no. They just lost another one. Oh, no. Oh, no. They're dropping like flies. Pinecone, come on. Pinecone, move! Oh, Jesus. Look at all these vultures. Pinecone! I'm getting jiggled. There's so many of them. Well, that didn't go as planned. Oh, no. Get off of me. As close as the effort was, it wasn't quite enough. I didn't manage to beat Valguero within 100 days. I'm sorry if this wasn't the ending that you were expecting, but unfortunately, there's just nothing that I could do. This boss is insane, and I wish I could have prepared further. Well, could I beat Alpha Grendel? Absolutely fucking not. Thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate you sticking around. I have the insane Lost Colony 100 Days coming up next. And of course, thank you to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video. Make sure you scan this QR code on the screen right now or click the link in the description. And just like that, I will see you all very, very soon.